Hey everyone, welcome back to the Miracle of Healing. I'm Lisa Campion, your host, and I'm super happy to be with you today. I'm so happy to introduce you to Faust Ruggiero. He's one of the most interviewed self-help authors in the world. Oh my gosh, he's been all over the place and has 40 years of counseling experience from veterans to first responders, corporate individuals. He has developed something really, truly revolutionary. He's got an amazing radio show called Fix It with Faust, and that reaches almost 1 million listeners. And his award winning Fix Yourself Empowerment series has helped thousands of people reclaim their power and heal from within. Today, we're going to talk about the profound power of our internal language. So, he's created this process way of life, a methodology he's used successfully with thousands of clients to transform their lives from the inside out and out. And his latest book, Fix Your Internal Language Handbook, reveals how the words we speak to ourselves can either trap us in negative patterns or become our greatest tool for healing. So please welcome in Faust Ruggiero.
Hi, Lisa. It's a pleasure to be spending time with you. Thanks so much for inviting me.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for being here. And thank you for the beautiful contribution you've made to the world. You've impacted so many people. And as a mother of a veteran, I particularly appreciate your work with first responders. My son-in-law is a first responder, and my son is a veteran. So, from my own heart, I have deep appreciation for the work that you've done and
Thanks.
continue to do. So let's talk a little bit about your story and how you got into this work.
Well, the story is just, me being the kid that everyone talked to, and I love to be with people. I love to listen to them. So it was just a natural to flow into this and be someone who counsels other people. I'm still doing it after all these years, So uh, that's just me. I'm the listener, the counselor, the in-service person. That's just me.
Mm. Wow, and you have so many different ways of helping people. Tell me about this process way of life. What is this sort of overarching? You've met many books, and I think they sort of come together in this process that you've developed. Let's talk about that for a minute.
The process way of life is nothing more than using processes, which are tools for living that help people define and access the more powerful parts of themselves. Very simply, things like honesty and getting your intellect over your emotions and setting your boundaries and those types of things. There's 52 different processes, and depending on the person and their needs, I implement whichever ones are necessary. The first book, the Fix Yourself Handbook, is the one that has all the 52 processes, 36 chapters, different topics, different problems that people have. And then, I like to write short chapters and give action steps at the end.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the information, now do this. So that's what the whole program is about. And that can be applied to the processes can be applied to any problem in your life. So the remainder of the books and the way I teach are all devised around that particular concept, which is if you use the processes for anything in your life, you will see improvement. If you stick with them, they are not something that fixes it in a month. It doesn't work
All
that
right. It's like not a one and done
way. Right.
process, but more maybe changing your mindset, changing the way you think, changing. It sounds like a lot of them are about changing your level of self-responsibility, like of taking ownership and discipline and all those things that we need to live.
Right.
Yeah.
And the goal is really to get to a person, excuse me, a process I call internal balance.
Mhm.
Regardless of what people like to think, we human beings are physical, intellectual, emotional, spiritual entities.
Yep.
If we can balance those attributes, those parts of our lives, we become happy people. That's the goal of everything that I do, is to get that balance, get that clarity of thought, emotions that are healthy, a body that is working to keep us strong, and then a spiritual connection. And if you can do those things, life gets good.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I teach in a mystery school and we use the same model, physical, the we call them the energy bodies, but the physical, emotional, mental, spiritual as the the parts of us that we need to attend to. So it just makes me smile to, see that we use the same model. I love that.
Well, when you look at it, if something is right, just about most, I shouldn't say everyone, but most people will use it. The
Mm,
one thing I keep telling people is what I'm doing is not revolutionary. I didn't create some new age kind of thing. It's all basic, fundamental stuff that if you organize it and stay with it, it works.
that's great. I love it. And I want to talk about your newest book, the Fix Your Language Handbook. And you've worked with thousands of clients over your 40-year career, from prisoners to corporate boardrooms, and which I think is a fascinating sort of spread of humanity. And what is it that made you sort of want to focus on how we speak to ourselves inside of our own heads as sort of the missing piece that so many have and people have on their healing journey?
You know, it comes down to whether you want to be positive in your own mind or negative. And regardless of uh, how you look at it, we think with language. That's how we think.
Yeah.
Some of what we do doesn't require a lot of language. It's automatic things that we've done routinely over and over again. But when it comes to how we organize our world, we do it with language. And you can be the person where something goes a little bit off, and you're reacting emotionally and your language gets negative and aggressive, and I'm talking in your own mind, not even to other people. Or you can be the person that says, well, let me take a step back, I got to think about this, I think I can fix this, or I'm going to deal with it. And then you start thinking positive things, goal oriented things. So the book is all about understanding that if you go negative, then you're caught in that negative energy, and yeah, it's hard to get out of it. And then that tends to come out in the world. Now you talk to other people that way, or you react to what you see in the world with negativity. If you can do it, if you can be more positive about it, solutions are either readily available, or you can access them, or you can create them a whole lot easier if you're not working against yourself. And negative language does that.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of the root of neurolinguistic programming, right? Like
Right.
NLP. And,
Mhm.
it says, well, how we think is connected to our language. Our language and is a reflection of how we think, which then mm, filter changes our perception of our reality, creates our own reality, right? And so
Does.
changing your language is like changing your experience of the world.
It does, and it sets you up for how you're going to behave. If you think about it, if I'm thinking in
Mm,
my mind, that, oh, I don't like this person, and I don't like the way they are, and I keep spinning that in my mind, sooner or later, something's going to happen. I'm going to say something, I'm going to do something, because it's going to come out. On the other hand, if I say, gee, I'm not real thrilled with the way they behave, but let me give them a chance. I'll talk to them. Everybody has problems, and they do too. And I can be more positive with it. I'm probably less able, less willing to talk to them in a negative way. The other thing is that negative language is in my head.
mm,
I'm the one experiencing it all day long. So if I'm going to keep on spinning, negative energy in my mind, I have to live with that. I become that. And as I said, we're those four entities, but they're all connected. So if I'm doing that in my mind, my body's feeling the stress, my intellect isn't processing the way it should, because now I'm stuck on negative. I'm going to be have negative emotional energy. And when you're negative, it's so easy to disconnect with the spiritual part of yourself. You're not even
yeah,
going there. So you
right.
really lose out on a whole lot of good feelings.
Yeah, so powerful. I love it. And it's tricky to work with your mind. I mean, our minds are so slippery, the tricky little monkey. And that's what I think of my mind as, a slippery, tricky little monkey. And how do we learn how to control our thinking? And what do we do about so a lot of like my negative self-talk, it's sort of in my subconscious. Like I don't even realize I'm doing it. It's like kind of you know, so how do we work with, the trickiness of our own minds?
The trick is to work with that old thing we hear, conscious energy, meaning focus on what you're doing in the moment. You are
Mm.
correct. Negative energy doesn't, that negative self-talk isn't something where you say, I'm angry, I'm going to start talking negative now. It doesn't work that way. It just starts, and all of a sudden
Yeah.
you're in it and
Yep.
you don't realize it. I have a chapter in the book I called Ghost Screaming. We get to the point where we have conversations with that adversary, that other person we don't like, and we have the whole conversation with them in our own minds. They're not even present. They don't even know that we're doing it. But here we
Right.
are engaged in that battle. So the key is to keep it conscious. I always tell people one of the simple exercises you can use is as soon as you notice that you're involved in negative thinking, you say, okay, I'm stopping this. The next
Mm.
step is to go to something you want to think about. Maybe it's what you have to do today. It's some goal you have, some positive thought. The third step is develop that into a inner language that is positive. So
Mm.
stop it, select something new, develop that. If you do that all the time, keep on doing it, eventually you train your brain and to have linguistic patterns that are more powerful, that are more positive, and make you
Right.
a happier person.
Yeah, I think there's sort of like for me, and I studied NLP a little bit, but there's sort of like trigger phrases that if I'm saying in my head, something is always or never, I
Mhm.
know I'm like in a negative thought loop, you always do that, or I never get that, like that sort of like if I hear myself, or I
An
should have,
all-encompassing kind of thought where it's
yeah,
not just that little piece, which it often is. It's and then what it does, and we don't even realize it. We're victimizing ourselves when we do
right.
that. We're saying, "Well, now poor pitiful me, because I
Mhm.
never get this, and you always do this," and we get caught up in that. And I always, again, I tell people, well, you've got to focus on your own power. That person doesn't have the power to do all these things you think they're doing. It's what you're
Mhm.
saying to yourself. And if you act as the victim all the time, you're always going to feel like the victim, and then whatever comes in goes to that part of you.
Yeah.
Change that around a little bit. What comes in goes to a different place, goes to a more positive place, and you work with.
Yeah, it's so fun. It's so fun. I have one like when I find myself going down that rabbit hole. Like I wanted to talk about affirmations. Is sort of I wondered how you feel about affirmations, but I have like a little trigger phrase that I use when I start going down the victim rabbit hole. And it's like, I'm the boss of my own life. I'm the boss of my life. Helps me shift out of that victim place and reminds me that I'm like I can make choices and I'm in charge of what for the most part sometimes
You
what's
know,
going on in my life. So, what do you think about affirmations? Do they
I
work?
have in every chapter that I write, the way I should go back, I set my chapters up to be short, 6, 7, 8 pages, concise information. I started with the chapter heading and then a little quote that I write to help start get people motivated. Right before after I do all the steps, okay, now here's the action steps. Do all these things in every chapter. At the end, I call them your declaration. It's an affirmation. I have the
Mhm.
power to. I will not do these things. To kind of drive the point of the chapter home and to give someone something that they can say. Oh, let me say that over and over again. So
Right.
affirmations, absolutely wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah, they really work for me is sort when I go down the rabbit hole, I sometimes can find one like that. And look, what do we do what do we do when we're really struggling with, I know that you work a lot with people that have pretty bad trauma, anxiety, depression, addiction, trauma. And how does changing our internal language really play a role in healing from these? I mean, these are kind of big deals. It's not just like I'm having a bad day. It's like real stuff.
Well, what you can do with internal language is, it depends on what's happening and how you're going to react to it. The first thing this is kind of the disclaimer, if you will. If you need help, you can't get out of your head, it's trauma, whatever, go get help. That's the first
Mhm.
thing. Sometimes uh, changing your internal language is about settling the past, settling
Mhm.
those traumas, uh,
Yeah.
clearing your mind, purging of things that are going to, that undercurrent that is painful and unresolved. And if you need that, go get help. There's nothing wrong with that. We're all worthy of that. There's, we all have a right to be happy. So, by all means, go get help if you need it. That person can actually help you with that internal language if you can't do it on your own. If you feel as though
Mhm.
you can, then again, whatever comes in, you've got to be able to at least pause, take a step back and say, let me not react. Let me think about how I want to handle this. And keep in mind, as you said, negative thinking is an automatic process. We're just in it. And if you can't
Yeah.
stop that, get help for that. Start the internal language process by getting fresh eyes on it, by having someone else hear what you're saying.
Hmm. Yeah, I love what you talk about the purge. And, a lot of times I think when we start our spiritual journey, we start our journey of awakening, those things that we've been kind of sweeping under the carpet kind of all seem like they pour out all at once. And I know that's what you're talking about when you talk about the purge, right? That's the floodgates open and everything comes out, and that's a really great time to get help. And I know that's something that everyone can relate to. So let's talk about the purge for a minute. You mentioned it a bit, but I want to dip into it a little bit more.
I do this in everything I do, not just internal language. A person comes in to the office and says, I've got these things going on, and I just feel horrible. And first thing I'm going to say is, let's talk about what you're doing first. Let's talk about what we need to clear out of your world before we start making changes. As an example, if you come in and say, I've got tremendous anxiety, I'm going to say, all right, let's start with your diet. Let's start with what's going in your body. How much sugar, carbs, caffeine, energy drinks, all those you're putting those in. Almost always people are. I said, so we
Yeah.
need to let's get the physical. I always go physical first. Let's get the physical out of the way. Now let's go back into your past. You're dealing with trauma. Have you been hurt? Have you been victimized? Uh, is any of that happening now? We need to be able to go and settle some of those past things,
Mm.
and purge, if you will. You're not going to purge the memory, but we want to purge the damage it's doing on you and how it's affecting your ability to move forward. So we go get those out of the way. And then your emotions. We want to see how you're reacting. Are you reacting emotionally to all these things? Well, it's important that we purge those things from your life. Purge
Mm.
means really either to remove or to settle. That's what we're talking about. Those are the two concepts. Remove
Right.
it, whatever you may be doing that's helping you to stay in a victimized state, or at the very least settle some of those things. And that may be forgiving people, that all those things that sometimes we don't want to do, but we have to get to the point where we free ourselves from what's dragging us down before we go forward.
Yeah, I think of it that's so beautiful. I just love the way you said that. And I think about it as um like self-repair. Like sometimes, we need to go back and clean up like the damage that's been done to us. It's so beautiful. And I know especially when you're working with I say people with trauma, but I really think that's everybody these days. Like I don't
It
know if
is.
we can't really get through life without experiencing pretty bad traumas. All of us do.
You do. And,
Yeah.
again, it's important to remove yourself from the concept that you're a victim, that it's always going to be that way, and that's how
Yeah.
you perceive your world. There's no such thing as Murphy's Law. It just doesn't exist. We bring
Mm.
that into our lives. So another thing I like to purge with people is this idea that, well, this is me and I'm not worth it and no one likes me and all those kinds of things. Because if that's where you're starting from, boy, you really have an anchor around your ankle and you're trying to run forward.
Yeah.
So we have to get to the point where a person at least says, okay, I'm ready. Help me. This is what I need to do. I know I'm worth it. I know that I'm
Mhm.
willing to work. Let's go do it. That's where I want the person to be. That
That's
person is
beautiful.
probably going to make it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I think like worthiness is such a good place to start.
Mhm.
And if someone's not feeling that worthiness, like I'm worth this, it's going to be really hard for them to carry on to do the work, right? So kind of supporting them and feeling worthy enough to spend the time, the money, you know, to get the work going. Like, cause you said it's not a one and done thing, it's a process. I think
Well,
that's a beautiful.
it's a process. People keep thinking about destinations. It's a process, and if I keep doing that somewhere down the road, I'm going to get to
Mm.
this. What I'm telling them is you should be worthy and willing to help yourself every day of your life. And the other thing I teach is stop making this drudgery and a chore. This is your
Mm.
life. Get up every day and say, I'm going to do the best I can with my life today. I'm going to love myself as well as much as I can. And since it's my life, I want to enjoy making it better every day. That's the mindset you have to have. And if you don't have that, boy, you really make things hard on yourself. Have
Yeah.
that in your mind. Yeah, I'm a good person. I've done some things maybe that aren't so great, and things not so good things have happened to me. But yeah, let's change this around. Because if you don't, the bottom line is if you don't do this, you're going to be stuck in what you have. If you do it and are willing to do the work and go positive, the chances that you come through this really increase. Which one do you want?
Mhm. Mm.
Bottom line.
And so it's so powerful what you just said because it puts the power of that choice in our own hands, right?
Exactly.
You know, we're able to choose that and choose that. For me, it's sort of like a moment by moment, um, like attunement to my own inner state, you know? So I'm constantly like monitoring my thoughts, monitoring how I'm feeling. And I know if I feel bad, it's because my thoughts have gone bad. You know, and I'm like, I don't feel good. I feel anxious or I feel out of sorts. I'm like, all right, what am I thinking? You know, so I recognize my negative thought loops because I just feel bad, right? And that's where I start. That's my sign to sort of take a time out and sort myself, take a pause, do some breathing, look at my thinking, process my feelings, like just, and then then I'll go back into alignment. But it's sort of my minute by minute for me, like constantly through the day. That's how it goes for me.
And that's how it goes for many people. And again, what I say, if you're willing to work with positive energy, positive language, um,
Yeah.
feeling that I'm going to keep on doing this, and I know, and I'm going to succeed. Minute by minute's fine.
Mhm.
That's how your day progresses anyway. A trick that I've taught people for years is focus on your breathing.
Mhm.
Slow in, slow out. What you did when you do that, you put yourself right in the moment. Automatically, you're there. Do that as often as you can. If you haven't, if you can do it at work, you can do it while you're driving. Just slow your breathing down. Focus on that. You still focus on what you're doing, you're driving or whatever, but you're just slowing everything down. That alone will help you to stay in the moment and to, you know, decompress your body. Start there.
Yeah, I love that. I think breathing is so important. And I have another friend who sets notifications on her phone. Because she's so busy. She works just a big life and she's super busy. And her like 3 times a day, she pings herself and she's like, "How are you feeling? What are you thinking?" Like, take a breath. And it kind of for her builds in those like check-in moments, so she carves out a little mental space for herself every day, and she swears that works. I think it's a cool idea. Yeah.
And it works. I mean, again, it's remaining conscious. It's you're going to have challenges. You're going to get some people are going to get up in the morning, and as soon as they get up, it starts. This
Yeah.
person, that thing, that. Again, if you're overwhelmed and you can't get out, again, go get help.
Mm.
Make that move. People are doing it online. People are doing telephone calls. There's offices that you can go to. Whatever works for you, but go do it. Uh, don't be overwhelmed. There's a solution to any problem, but you got to be willing to pursue it.
I love that you have a podcast called Fix It with Faust, and that reaches about 1 million listeners monthly. So amazing. Are there sort of really common internal language patterns that you hear people struggle with the most? Is there patterns that come up that are like, oh, that's one that's hard for everybody? And if so, what's your advice on that particular one?
The first thing I tell people is, and it's, working, if you want to get better in your world, you work from the inside. So you
Mm.
focus on you, not making excuses. And if you must disconnect from the world, stop following people whose language is horrible and
Mm.
are attacking other people verbally and creating stories that don't exist, all those kinds of things. Because what that does is put you in a position to continue to talk negatively about that item. But since you practice that, you'll talk negatively about everything. Stay around
Mm.
positive people, stay around positive situations, and remove, again, purge anything that's negative that comes in your world. You know,
Wow.
politics,
Yeah.
what's going, all those things that we use to divide the nation and ourselves. Get away
Mhm.
from those things. Be able to put love in everything you do and move forward that way. Your language will automatically change.
That's so beautiful. I think it's important to, like you said, like monitor what we're intaking, right? And there's a lot of hate on the planet right now, and a lot of people that are sort of profiting off hate,
Yes.
and profiting off rage, and it's kind of it's so upsetting to me when that happens, and it's hard not to get sucked into it. So I think, like being mindful about what you're consuming in terms of your media, your social media, your TV, all that. Such beautiful advice. I love that. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, it's the old story. Who I associate with is probably going to be the way I think and the way I talk. So, the
Yeah.
quality of our relationships has a lot to do with the quality of our lives. So, put positive
Mhm.
people in your life. Positive does not mean they think like you, or that you jump on the bandwagon and say, "Yeah, we're making these great changes." That's fine. You can make change, but you don't have to get angry about it. And your internal language, if it's getting negative around the people you're with, that's a real red flag. Do you really want that in your life? Is that how you want to live? There's a misnomer that negative energy, negative language is powerful because it
Mm,
attacks and it knocks the other person down. Anger never wins. In the
right.
end, first of all, you live with it, and then eventually it comes back at you
There's
because
karma there. There's
that's
karma
what you're
there.
putting out there. So put love back into the
Yeah.
world. Stay close to the spiritual part of yourself. Put that out there. Watch how the world changes around you.
So great. Thank you so much, Faust. So if people wanted to work with you or find you, how do they do it?
The best place is my website. It's my name, faustruggiero.com. There you can find everything about me. Excerpts from the books are there, and there is a contact link there, and I do get back to people.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today, and again for sharing your beautiful work with the world. And I have a couple of people in mind that I'm going to get a copy of your book and give it to them. It's inspired me to share with some of my people. So I thank you so much for all of that.
It's been a pleasure spending time with you. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks all of you guys for listening. I'm so glad that you're here. If you want to visit me, you can find me at lisacampion.com. I work with psychics, healers, and empaths to help them step fully into their gifts because I think the world needs all the healers it can get. And that's my mission in life, to build an army of healers to go out there and save the planet. So I so appreciate your time and attention today. Thank you for being with us on the Miracle of Healing, where we are healing the planet one person at a time right here on the Empower channel.